tonight, but yeah.
We're live.
Oh, hey, what's up?
Hey, don't worry. I can edit this into script.
Right.
Hey, welcome and thank you so much for joining. It's Faith and Business, finding your voice and identity. I'm Theresa Croft with Michelle Tufford. For the next few, just 30 minutes, we're going to talk about you and your intentionality and what is your mission. And we're going to talk about you being intentional. Yeah, we'll tell you about tonight what we were talking about. If you're listening to us on our podcast, hey, welcome. We're so glad you listen on Spotify and Google. We're working on the Apple, but go over to Spotify and catch some of the past episodes, especially last week. It was really fun. We had a guest and it was mind blowing. So,
So good.
Michelle, we're here. What's going on, girl?
Hey, I always look forward to Thursday. It's like highlight of my
Yeah.
day, being able to come here, talk with you, and just allow the Holy Spirit to just come and move. And
Mm.
we just like to follow that. We come with like, what should we talk about today, Lord? And then He fills
Boom.
it.
That's why when you heard we were talking, we were going to talk about maybe a little more about the Speaker Academy, but there's some things right up front we got to talk to you about. And I
Mm,
think it leads up to anything. Tonight's call, Speaker Academy, Radiant Leadership Academy, it's how are you being
yeah.
intentional?
Mm.
There's got to be some action.
Yes. Yes, there does. There needs to be that action. And I think it kind of starts with I would love to know in the comments. Let us know. Like, what are you feeling drawn or called to? Because there's probably some giftings on your life. And
Ooh,
you in pressing into those and seeking the Lord, like, what is that?
ooh,
Typically, they're passions, right? They're
yeah.
things that maybe you grew up even little. I love hearing your story, Teresa. Maybe you could share your story of like what you did as a kid, like literally standing on the like apple crates and like
Because
speaking.
when you talk about that, you're really going back to when they're a child. There's no fear. There's not that kind of fear. There's no imposter syndrome. You're just doing what you like to do to play. So when
Yeah.
Michelle was saying, I was young and I would climb these stairs of this old house, and I'd get up on the top of that, and I was really high up for a 6-year-old. It was really high up, and I'd get out there
Yes.
and I'd preach, and I was Catholic. It's a good homily. And then we
Oh.
moved and there were no stairs. So you know what I found? An apple cart. I tipped it over the long ways, got up on that thing. Okay,
Mm,
Apple cart. From since 2008, I've opened an Apple computer or an Apple iPhone with filters, of course. Do you see that? And tell
level of
tell them about
dedication.
you have a story too when you were young. What did you like to do?
Yeah, I mean,
Garden?
I grew up just wanting to start businesses. I was
Oh, nice.
obsessed with the Babysitters Club
Oh
books. I
my
was like, "I'm
gosh.
gonna start a Babysitters Club. We're gonna" like, this whole corporation thing around,
Oh,
um,
that's so good.
so it's kinda funny that I'm still passionate about that today. Working
Yeah.
with women, I mean, nothing related to babysitting, but, working with women and, building teams, and I love that.
And I really believe there's something when you go back, there was a little bit of innocence. Now, I always point this out, Michelle, because sometimes people say, "Yeah, I had a terrible childhood." But
Yeah.
that's where you get to walk through the healing and
Yes.
speak to the person you once were. Our
Yeah.
friend who was on live last Thursday, she had a brain injury at 3 years old. Do you know
Wow.
what she's doing today? Restoring and rewiring people's mind through the neurocycle process under Dr. Caroline Leaf. So come on. So I'm not
Yes.
saying if you had a rough childhood, I am sorry. Please get help.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
don't be ashamed to ask for help. So
Yes. I mean, maybe little bit of a cliche quote, but I mean, there's so much power and truth to it about your mess becoming your message. And like God does that. Like he
mm,
redeems it by allowing that to then turn around as you're seeking healing, because that's number one first, right? Seeking healing in that. And then from that healed place, then being able to turn around and help other people on that journey and giving them that hope and that message. And that's why it's so important that we share, right? The things that
mm,
God has put on our hearts and don't allow our ego to come and get in the way of that. And I think, our ego can show up in different ways. I used to think the ego was about like thinking too highly of yourself, but it's actually more common on the flip side of that.
yes. It's like when I was quite a few years ago, I I was thinking about it. I knew what ego was, and I remember it's probably 2009. I said to myself, I will never let my ego get in the way if God's calling me to shoot a video. And
Yeah.
that was if I have a bad hair day, I'm not going to let that stop me from getting on camera. Now,
Mm,
however many years later, I have to say, now I'm going to point it out and you're going to notice it. I will not let my circles under my eyes keep me from being on camera or speaking on a stage that God's called me to
mm,
speak. Okay, so now you're all looking. I'm having a little problem with my lighting. I
mm.
said that to someone. I was interviewing someone and we were talking about, and she goes, T, now all I can see is you. I didn't notice your black circles.
Yes.
We're coming to you,
Well,
authentic as ourselves.
yes, I think there's just such a beautiful thing about even recognizing and speaking some of those insecurities out loud can be so freeing to other people when they
Yeah,
recognize like,
shoot,
"Oh,
yeah.
hey, like, if she can do it, I can do it," right? I think there's
Amen.
there's so much freedom that comes when we show up anyways, and
Yeah,
we maybe even acknowledge like, "Hey, like, this is something I struggle with, but here I am," right?
wow.
"Here I am." You're not alone if you struggle with something,
Yeah,
right? There's something about the way that you look or the way that you speak or the whatever it is. It's like you're shining light on it. I think you're like
yeah,
pulling it out of the darkness and shining light on it and say, "Hey,
yeah.
like, here I am, and look at God. Look at God,"
That's yeah,
right?
and
Because yeah, we all have something.
so
We
what if
we all
someone
do.
says, "What do you mean by being intentional to be equipped?" What would you say to someone like, "What do you
Mm.
mean intentional to be equipped? I'm pretty good
Yeah.
at what I do, but I'm
Yes.
falling short of my" I don't like to say the word goals. "I'm falling short of my, benchmarks where I know I should be."
Yeah, so I came across a quote yesterday, by Wade Joy, and there was, like, a whole series of slides that kinda went together, but one of the things that he had said was, you will head in the direction of the loudest voice in your heart."
Wow.
And to make sure
Good.
it's the right one.
Yeah.
So in that comes intentionality because we can just go throughout our day just kind of following along with whatever comes our way, right? We're allowing life to kind of dictate how we operate, right? Like our circumstances are just like dictating how we operate.
Yeah.
Whereas the intentionality piece comes and says we actually get to choose. We actually get to choose how we respond and the voices that we listen to and what we allow ourselves to be exposed to and what we seek in our atmosphere and in our space to be surrounded by and exposed to, right? So I think about, the fact that who do you surround yourself with? Like one
Wow.
of the things even in business for me that the Lord made really clear. I was in a season where I was struggling with a lot of stress and anxiety
Okay.
and was not in a good place, was feeling very unfulfilled. And the Lord highlighted to me, he said, "You need to surround yourself with kingdom women
Ooh.
in business." And, like, that's how I was introduced to Girl Power Alliance, but had I not listened to that and took action and intentionality to pursue women that I needed to surround myself with, because I listened to the direction of God and then actively was looking, right? Like, I
Mm,
was actively looking so that I could respond, but had
that's
I
so
just
good.
continued on that path, not listened to that, and just thought, like, "This is just my life," then I would maybe still be in that situation.
Wow. I have a story, but it's not the same.
Tell me.
I was in Girl Power Alliance for not a year yet. I was at the conference after the Speaker Academy, and I saw 2 people at different times on stage. One of them was Michelle Tufford. The other one was Michelle Schaefer, and that voice said, "Who cares where you are in this business? Those are the people I want you to align you to." And it
Mm,
was like a lightning bolt. Yes. So
mm,
I'm back. I had still going through some healing, y'all. I lost my husband almost 2 years ago. It's not my identity. Can you hear me? It was a messy marriage. You can hear me talk about that soon, about healing. But what this was the same thing that Michelle said. It's like, who do you align? And then when you ask God, okay, I I just got to tell you, he may take away, but I asked God after my husband died.
mm,
I even asked him when my husband was alive, but he was a control freak, so I couldn't connect. But God brought along someone. She was our guest last week. Yes, she's helped me neurocycle wise, but her kingdom mindness and her being a true
mm.
friend, that has changed my life.
Yeah.
So Girl Power Alliance and one friend that it's a good, healthy friend. You know, she lives so far away. Only time I see her is on Zoom. All I did see her in person. But what I'm saying is what Michelle's saying, will you trust the inner voice? So you're
Yeah.
like, so that means you need to start this journey, to start the intentionality with your time with Jesus.
Yeah.
It's so it can be your time with Jesus might look different than my time with Jesus, but if we're both hearing his voice, that's the time with Jesus that you gotta. I know Michelle will say
Yeah.
it comes out of the overflow when she shares online. She may have just read a Bible study, been in a Bible study, or she may have just read something in scripture and the Holy Spirit splashed her on the side of the head and she got revelation. So
Yeah.
the intentionality's got to start there.
Yeah, this is the interesting thing about that, because I've, grew up in a very religious home. I, became a Christian in my early 20s, so very decent amount of time, but it's interesting how exponentially my faith has grown since I've been surrounded by other people who are
Yeah,
pursuing the intentional growth in their life and in their walk with God. There's
yeah.
something that happens in community and fellowship that
Mhm.
honestly, like, we are made for that.
Yeah,
We're made for that. Yeah, sitting at the feet of Jesus, and that is number 1, like,
right.
spending time with him, and from, yes, the overflow, but I didn't have that hunger and desire by
Wow,
myself. It
wow.
came from being in proximity with other women who were at the feet of Jesus, spending time with him. Their
Exactly.
overflow gave me hunger
It's so
to wanna
good.
spend time with Jesus, to have
Yeah.
overflow.
Like, you just spent some time with, Michelle Schaefer, our CEO at a you got away, and I'm sure you were just like this is the way I look at it. You're in her vineyard, drinking her wine and eating her grapes because she
Yeah,
has done the walk, and
mhm,
she is a leader. That to me, I'm sorry, that's just a vision I think of the vineyard.
yeah,
You know, and there are other women that would, believe me, we would invite you into our vineyard that might be connected to GPA. Okay.
mhm,
Because we got to fill ourselves up too.
mhm,
And it's just the possibilities there.
mm,
So
yeah.
tonight we're going to have a call. Why don't you explain a little bit about the call we're having tonight?
Yeah, yeah. So tonight we are going to be talking about really how to run your business from a place of leverage, or cash flow, and alignment. So here with Girl Power Alliance, like, we hit all 3 of those things when it comes to growing and
Yes.
building our businesses, kingdom first,
Yeah.
and really coming together and equipping you for your calling. I feel like that's really our resources. Our membership program is all about equipping you
Yeah.
for your calling. Because yes, you need people around you, right?
Uh-huh.
Or you need people, you need mentorship, you need support from other kingdom women. You need to have training. You need to be intentional with investing in yourself, whether it's hiring a coach, getting into courses, certification programs. There's so much amazing stuff out there. But the thing I love about our program being a membership model and a collaborative model is that
Yeah.
you're not just getting poured into from one person. You
Right.
have a whole team, a group of
Yeah.
people that are pouring into you, bringing their gifts, and from all of these different places of experience pouring into you and it's more, affordable that way too, because you don't have to
Yeah.
go out, buy a course here, hire a coach there, right? You get
Right.
access to all of
We
the
know how that can add up. And I think
correct.
when you join in, if it's the right timing, you have a chance to go into the Radiant Leadership Academy, which is 16 weeks. And you think, that sounds terrible. No, after week, I think I'm on my 16th week and I'm going to really miss those girls. So you're
Yeah.
on a Zoom call, you see all these faces and you get to know them.
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know. Radiant
Powerful
Leadership.
stuff.
Yeah.
But I would
Radiant.
the equipping side, so join us tonight if you wanna learn more
Yeah, please
about
do you can you put the Zoom down in there? Are you able
that.
to do that on your side?
Yes, 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 yes. I actually have the event in my Facebook group too, but let me
Okay.
for those of you
Well,
not on the Facebook group, let me drop the
there
Zoom
are some
link
people
there.
listening from the Facebook group, no doubt.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop it in the comments so you guys
But
can
you
snag
have some
it.
people from my, Facebook places.
Yeah,
I
perfect.
even
I'll do
put this on, YouTube too for this time. And if
yeah,
you're listening to our podcast, just go to Michelle's look up Michelle Tufford on Facebook. You'll go to her profile. Within her profile, you'll see the name of the group. Click on that, and you're over to one of the most dynamic women in business groups you will find on Facebook. And when I mean that, just so much value and so many new members coming in that you get to really kind of get to know. I mean, I love going in there. That's one of my first things I do in the morning after I do my other incoming producing things. I go, let's go into Michelle's group. So we're excited about what God's doing there. I don't see
Yeah.
it. Why do I not see you dropped it in there?
Oh, I put it. Oops, I put it in the wrong spot. Let me
Down
try again.
below. Yeah, I don't
Oh,
know
I'll
where you
send
put
it.
it. I didn't
Here,
know.
I'll
We're
send
on
it to you.
StreamYard.
I'll send it to you.
Send it to me and I'll put it. Can you text me or what? Let's see.
Yeah.
Um,
Can you check
you
the
have my.
private chat? I think it's on there.
Oh, that might be where it is. I don't see it there.
Here, I'll text it to you.
And you have my phone number. Can you text it to me?
I just
No. Okay, you just did. There it
yes.
is.
Perfect. Well, speaking of equipping you for your calling, I
Yes.
think there was something I had said right before we went live that I came across, I think it was yesterday. It was basically if you're praying for a mountain to move, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe even let me know in the comments, like what is the mountain in your life right now? Right? Because we all really have like different like mountains in your life, right? One of the things that again, I read this quote and I was like, what? This is so relevant to our lives. It was if you pray for a mountain to move, don't be surprised. You wake up next to a shovel.
I love that.
And I was like, okay. I'm like, all right, yes. Like, how often is does that happen? Right. But how beautiful is that? Actually, this reminds me of another story I heard in regards to the same thing. Like we know in the Bible it says if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain.
Yeah.
Right. But it's interesting because in our minds, we think timeline of like instantly,
Yeah.
right? Like, yes, sometimes God works instantly, but I think other times, again, He gives us a shovel
Right.
and we get to work hand in hand with moving something one at a time, right? We go and maybe there's this big pile of rocks, like it's the mountain with a big pile of rocks, and you go and you move one rock at a time. But what happens if continually moving those rocks over time? What happens?
It's gone.
It moves. So it might not necessarily be in the timeline. So some of us may be praying for that mountain to move, but the Lord wants us to start moving rocks.
That's intense. That's so true. You know, it's funny. I just read that verse this morning and prayed about that on air. And I remember when I was young, I was a golfer and I wasn't doing good in golf. All of a sudden I had a little slump. So I started writing Bible verses on my tube of whatever cards while I walked to the golf course. And that was the one that hit me. I needed to move the mountain where I was having, I don't know what the word is. I was having a lag in my golf career. You know, I was probably about 16 or 17. Do you know that has indelled in my spirit? It's the faith that moves the mountain. But Michelle's right. Sometimes you just need faith just to move a boulder at a time. And guess what? God and all his angels are cheering you on. So you might have to remove the boulder of offense or the boulder of unforgiveness. Believe me, those are huge boulders. Or that boulder where someone betrayed you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I know that hurts. But you can ask, then you use your faith to ask God to, okay, this unforgiveness thing, I'm really freaking mad. Okay, God, by faith, I'm asking you to help me to remove this boulder because it is a boulder. And you know, sometimes, Michelle, we get comfortable in the wrong things. I'm comfortable with being unfree. I'm comfortable. This is my comfort, but it's not the right kind of comfort God wants you to have. It's really easy to take comfort and think it's comfort in something that is not. Does that make sense? I mean, we can be comfortable in things that just should not be comfortable, but
Yeah.
because it's like a survival mode, really. It's not that it's like that's all you know how to do is to survive. So some
Yeah.
of you may need to take responsibility for yourself and have compassion for yourself. And if you're in an abusive situation, no, God's not for divorce, but God's not for abuse either. I know I'm talking to someone. You need to take your faith and ask God. God will tell you. And that might be a boulder where you do not have the strength to move that boulder. You're going to have to walk away until God tells you to come back. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm being real bold on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I just feel so
No.
passionately for
Yeah.
those women that are stuck and they think they're stuck, but that's the same faith. That's the same seed that Michelle's talking about. So girlfriend, move that boulder. And
Mm.
but in God's timing and God's way. And those are
Yes.
2 crucial things here. You don't
That's so
just like,
important.
"Okay, conflict, I'm outta here." No, 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 that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you
I like
think?
yeah, and I think sometimes too, the Lord gives us an opportunity. I love what you said about it the comfort, right? That can be so deceiving,
Yeah,
that we're constantly seeking this comfortable place.
yeah.
But it's interesting 'cause I mean, I like to work out, 'kay? I'm a little
That's
bit of a gym
beautiful.
rat, right?
And she
But
is the best too.
there's how do you see growth, like, with from a gym perspective, right? You have
Uh-huh.
to go and you have to pick up heavy things, you have to move
Shit.
things, you feel
Yeah,
uncomfortable, or you could literally sit on a couch and do nothing, right?
right.
So, I think the same is true, and this is why I believe that the Lord gives us an opportunity to pick up the shovel, and that He doesn't necessarily just always remove the thing, because He knows as a good father, He loves us. He knows how to be a good father, right?
Yeah,
Like, I think about even for my kids, if sometimes they ask me to remove things from them, like, they don't wanna do their chores, or they don't wanna, whatever it is, they want comfort. But yet, as their mother, I know cultivating in them how to grow into the person that they need to be, they have to go through some
wow.
uncomfortable things, and
Yeah.
the Lord does that in our lives too, in a perfect way, right? More than we ever could as earthly parents, but man,
I
trusting that in the discomfort that the Lord is working out things in us that are helping us become who we were meant to be.
But I really believe though that the enemy can come in and that comfort could be not a healthy thing,
Mm,
and you don't wanna rock the boat, or you don't even wanna stretch yourself.
yeah.
I can I share this? Can I? Um, I had a cat for 11 months, and toward the end, there's a reason why I'm telling you this. Toward the end of it, I had to give it away because it was starting to attack me more and more. One minute he's just as adorable as you could bet, and the next minute he's getting more and more rough with me.
Wow.
And I realized that it was the hardest thing I ever did, but the cat had abuse before I got it. So if you're
Mhm,
cat lovers, you're thinking this is so I had to give the cat away and back to the shelter. I'll tell you how weak I was. I took I took my son to lunch, and I thought, can we go look at him? He's still there. So anyway, that's not the point. So I was in a therapy session, and I was telling her, how it just was so hard, and
mhm,
then then I was relating, or my therapist brought it around, that I was in a marriage that was messy, but
mm,
I learned to be comfortable because that's all I knew. I didn't I was just comfortable in something that really wasn't right. And
yeah,
she pointed out, she said, "T," she said, "You have grown so much. You got rid of the cat, but you're both alive." My husband died of cancer. I didn't kill him. But
mm,
so do you understand what I'm saying? I was comfortable in a surviving place.
yeah,
But I wasn't surviving with the cat. I just made a decision. I can't have this anymore. As much as I love this cat,
mm,
he crossed the line. He hit my head and he got in my eye. If he
mm,
scratched my face, I'm on video. So, and it was the hardest thing I ever did. But it brought back those memories. And then I missed the cat more than I missed my husband. I'm like, this is crazy. But I was
mm,
able to work through that. Do you see what I'm saying? I hope I'm explaining
yeah,
myself. We can be comfortable in our comfortableness. And like for the gym analogy, I'm just comfortable not going to the gym, or I'm just comfortable. It's not a good relationship,
yeah,
but for me to get out of it, it just doesn't seem comfortable. So even though it's not right relationship, I'm just going to be comfortable in the wrong kind of comfort.
mm,
That's pretty
yeah,
deep. I didn't mean to go into that, but I just feel like
yeah,
with someone live or recorded or on our podcast, maybe
yeah,
God's using Michelle's words to say, hey, I need to be intentional, but part of
mm,
my intentionality has to be getting myself emotionally, physically, spiritually in the right place. Because
yeah,
I know you're saying, I know there's more. I know God's called me to be.
yeah, that's good. I think definitely pressing into kinda going back to that first question of, like, what are you feeling called to? And then
Yeah.
asking yourself the question, what's holding you back,
Mm.
right?
Wow.
And being really, really honest, like,
Yeah.
really honest, because typically when we we start thinking about what's holding us back, excuses start to, like, kinda come into
Yeah,
play. It's like, is that valid? Like,
right,
or is it you're hiding behind it for some
yeah.
reason?
And
'Cause
we've been there. I mean, Michelle and I've been there making excuses at different times, but I learned an excuse is a well-planned lie.
Mm,
That rings in my if I try to make an excuse for something I've done or hey, that's a lie. That's a well-planned lie. I'm going to make an excuse. So a
yeah,
lot of being committed and intentional, it starts with you, but it starts with that time with Jesus. That time with Jesus will clean up all the He'll even give you advice if you how to leave someone that's abusing you. That's how intent Jesus is.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I haven't brought my story up, but it spills out sometimes, but it spills out
Don't
from a
ever be sorry.
wound, a
Don't
scar, not a wound.
Yeah.
I've had almost 2 years of intense therapy, and she was our guest last week. If you wanna go back and watch that or listen to that with, Alana Vandeventer.
Wow. That
Yeah.
was so powerful. That was
Yeah,
so
she was
powerful.
like, we're getting questions. She's like, "I'm just gonna have to come back again. We'll have
She
to have
does need to come back. We need to go to there's more we need to talk about.
yeah, so much."
We'll bring her
But I'll
back.
tell you what, can I give a little plug?
Mm,
I spent an hour with her for my podcast. Part 1 is Monday, and part 2 I just released today. Go back and put those pieces together. I've never heard someone so honestly share bad things of going through the deep dark to the point of she almost committed suicide, and we
mm.
had this probably won't seem respectful laughing thing where we have something in common. We both wanted to kill our husbands. and
Oh.
and she was more real than I was. I was just back in 2009. I was like, God, I can't handle this. And do you see we're laughing though in a way for healing. And sometimes when you bring humor into a very sad, depressed thing, it makes you be able to digest.
Mm,
So, man, go listen. Unleashing Kingdom Voices is the name of the podcast.
mm,
You'll get where I'm coming from as far as walking away from the comfortable that really shouldn't be comfortable.
mm. Yep.
Wow.
That's
So
yummy.
tonight I put the link down, and
Awesome.
we're
Join
going to
us
be
tonight.
and well, I'm going to leave a question before we leave. I want you to be thinking about this, and I want you to join us. Although I think Michelle's going to help you if you're on her group. I want you to think: have you had a desire to speak? Like
Mm,
it's in you. So be thinking about that because we want to talk about that in the next few episodes.
yep.
'Cause, opportunity like no other is opening up with the Kingdom
Yes.
Speaker Academy, and I
Yeah,
know,
I think
Michelle and I are both so passionate about that.
yeah, and when we say call to speak, there's multiple ways to do that.
Yeah,
Doesn't
thank
always
you for
mean
saying that. Yeah,
stage, right? Doesn't
right,
always
there's not like, my friend told me that, she goes, "Teresa, you're on a stage every day." It doesn't have to be the physical stage. Maybe you wanna be able to speak on camera for the sake of your product or your opportunity or, maybe you wanna start a podcast. She's like, "I want to, but it sounds so difficult." It's not, so thank you for this will teach you about how to speak on any platform. 'Cause
yeah, let us
one of our instructors was on the news, and
mhm.
Molly Trotter, and
Yeah.
she has great tips, so
Yeah, let us know in the comments. Just type, "speaking" if you feel called to that. I'd also love to know if, like, any of you are interested in podcasting. Like, let us know, like, what area
yeah,
of, like, speaking maybe do you feel called to, whether it's podcasting,
yeah,
whether it's just going live more on social media
yeah, it's a good one, going
that
live
way,
more, give you
or
some
even on a
tips.
stage. I mean,
Yeah.
man, we were talking about that before we went live too, like, the thought of standing on a stage, definitely brings some, uncomfortable feelings, we'll just say
Yeah.
that, a little, uneasiness in my stomach, the thought
But
of it, but
they give us you go through 9 weeks where they really give you a framework. The hardest part is just getting on stage and staying under 10 minutes with no notes. That seems to me my hardest thing. You don't have to go on stage though. I mean, in this program, just we can't wait to talk about all things like that. Any final
supporting
thoughts?
you. Yeah, I mean, that's just what we're about. I mean, we're gonna keep coming back here every Thursday. Our heart is that, we're equipping you. Like, we just
Yes.
wanna, like, encourage you to just continue to take those bold steps of faith to where you're feeling called,
Yeah,
because every single one of us have a different calling
that's
and a
right.
different story and experience that we're meant to share with the world. I mean, we are meant to be the light is the
Uh,
light in the darkness. How do we do that? We gotta stand. We gotta shine. We gotta show that, right? And that is gonna look different for everyone. But what do we got here? Do a
what's
punch like boxing?
what does she mean by that?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm gonna give you a flip.
Yeah, there's definitely now that's incredible. I've seen you lift weights at the Activate. We need Alana to come back. You betcha.
Yeah,
Compassion. Oh, thank you, Sarah. Just
love it.
kidding. And then this is what I want you to copy and paste for tonight. I love it. They brought in Michelle. Is it you? Who are the you, Michelle? You, Michelle.
Me, Michelle, and yeah,
Lisa is
Lisa Vanderquack,
and Natalie.
Natalie Lawson. Tonight we're gonna have Lemon Price.
Oh,
Aw
we're gonna have lemon price. Oh, that's
Yep.
awesome. So
Mhm.
that's just gonna be exciting. And if you
Yeah,
need the link again, go on Michelle's and those of you listening to the podcast, you just have to deal with us. You can go every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
yeah,
Just find us on Facebook and we'll send you the link if you're listening on the
yeah.
podcast.
Chances are we'll probably share the live stream on our Facebook too, so.
Amen. So, amen. All right. We love you guys. Michelle, I'll see you tonight.
Sounds
I'll
good.
be waving at you in that little box.
Okay, sounds good.
All
See you
right.
tonight.